V'harei nisbaer, and it's been explained, clarified to us, shekol giluyav kulam. All of the revelations, all of the things that are revealed, all of them, Rotzalam, or what does that mean, all of them? Gam ma shenigla aleinu b'hasaga chushis, both that which is experienced and grasped by us in a sensual way that can be experienced and a real encounter that is rooted in the senses, which the Leshem was masbir earlier, that's where we have perhaps some sort of hasaga samahos even, somehow, some way. Ukanizka la'el mimamram zal b'medrash. V'amar lanu shehu toar diyukno atzmo. What are all of these revelations? They're the revelations of the description of his image, so to speak. These revelations of HaKadosh Baruch Hu are his depiction, a depiction of that which is completely without image. That's what all of the Giluyim are. They're all attempts to depict that which cannot be depicted. Expressions of that which cannot be expressed. Giluyim of that which can't be niskal. As we saw in the words of Chazal b'Midbar Rabbah, v'hu hadal ro'isiyos t'shem havaya baruch hu, and the fullness, the fullest expression of those revelations, the one that is the root source of all of them, is the four-letter name Havaya. V'chein kol hashemos hakadoshos kulam, as well as all of the names that emerge out of there, which have their own inherent kedusha. These are the access point to what these giluyim are. The giluyim are the shemos. The shem is the gilui. Chol haTorah kula, as well as the entirety of the Torah, which we know from the Ramban in the Sakdama, is also just an expression of the name of Hashem. Shukula Shema Yisbarach, which is also just fundamentally the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because the name is the way the essence is called. The name is only necessary for something other than the thing being named, and the necessity of naming is for me to receive something. So the names are how HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kaviyachol allows himself to be named, while at the same point holding on to the fundamental truth that he can't be named. It's nameless in all matters of namelessness. There's nothing to be named. It's everything. A name implies that there could be something outside of it. So the name Havaya and all of the Shemos that emerge out of it and all of the Torah, this is what we mean when we say all of the Giluyim, even those that we grasp. Vehim kulam diyuknum giluyiv mamish asher neskala behem amisaso hana'lama atzmo al yidei atzilus. And all of them in their revealed image, mamish, meaning that as they mamish are, in that kind of metaphor expression of the idea. So we just spent time saying, what are these shemos? These are the vehicles, so to speak, the depictions that depict the imageless nature of godliness. And what are they? They're names, but they're also a full expression of him. It's a full expression of the essence, so to speak, meaning we can't grasp the essence. The essence is completely removed, and therefore we can only have the expression of the inessential names. But somehow, some way, in spite of the fact that these inessential names are no longer the essence itself, inherent within the inessential names, so to speak, rooted in even Shem Havaya, which is the most essential of all names, but it's still inessential in relationship to the true essence of all things. Somehow, some way, these inessential names bear the mark, ontologically speaking, not just a memory or a mnemonic device that beckons the mind back to where it came from, but ontologically, b'metzius, folded into the names themselves, is amisasai hanelama atzmo, his concealed truth, which is revealed through and in the world of Atzilus. Like we said, the world of Atzilus, which is the Shem Havaya in general, is that limit point at which the system bears the most possible tendency towards limitation while still being unlimited. In the world of Atzilus, it's all the same. The Kalim and the lights at that point are both unified in their expression, so we can speak of this impossible paradox of that the vessel itself not only reveals the light, but bears an irreducible essence of the light. It only makes sense in Atzilus. How does it make sense? This is what the Balatanya asks. How does it make sense? They asked this in Igeres Chaf, and the Gra also describes it miduyak kazeh, that's why we call it Razad L'Meim Nusa. This secret of Atzilus, where the name itself is not the essence of that which is being named, but at the very same moment it bears the mark and the irreducible trace of that which is being named, that's the Razad L'Meim Nusa. That ends at the world of Atzilus. And then the question is how experience is meant to be experienced, felt, and engaged with in the worlds of separation that come after Atzilus, where we're no longer talking about this fundamental identification. Im kol zeh, and even though he himself, so to speak, is being revealed in these names, so we said it's just the names, but he himself is being revealed in the names. But don't think he himself is actually being revealed in the names, because you can't say that. But im kol zeh hine or kedushasei atzma asher bahem. Nevertheless, the light of his holiness, the essence of his holiness that rests within them, hashra'ah, a presence, a touching that is not contained within. Asher al yado nasim heim l'diyukno, that through this essence that is engarbed within the garment is what gives the garment its shape. Hine nishar aleinu adayim ne'elan betachlis ha'elam, kemuzulos guluyav. It continues to remain completely concealed in all manners of possible concealment from us, kemozulas guluyav, as if there were absolutely no revelations whatsoever. Insane.
Exactly.
Insane. It's so beautiful. The Leshem's Leshem is so beautiful. He's making us hold a paradox in the mind, and he's writing it out for us. The implication here, and one can really read the word adayin, which the implication is still at this point, at this historical moment, it still remains concealed from us in all matters of concealment. Because ultimately the argument can be made that while there are infinite levels of growth and hasaga, in the end of the day, in relationship to the essence of God, everything will revert back to this very same postulate. It's the best we can do. So adayin, so the Leshem is saying adayin, meaning in relation to our grasp right now, but it doesn't mean to reach a point of complete and unity. Gewalt, okay. And in truth, everything that is revealed to us in them, through them, by them, through that name Havaya, through all of the Shemos, through all of the Partsufim, through all of the Torah. I shouldn't say Partsufim, Leshem didn't say that. And everything that is revealed to us through them, it is in accordance with our grasp, and at the end of our grasp, at the apex of our knowledge, we come to realize it's a gezerah. Beli tam, it's a gezerah. That any intellectualization, processing, or knowledge that I have of how it works, or how Hashem reveals himself, in the end of the day needs to be accepted as a choik, as a gezerah. This is the gezerah. This is what the mind is capable of grasping, because this is how Hashem decided that the mind should grasp it.
So what does Rakha Gezerah mean here?
Begezerah means shekach amar lanu v'kach tziva lanu, meaning what we grasp of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What we grasp of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not because it's that way because we grasp it intellectually to be true that way. It's because it's a gezerah. Because Hashem has decided. The Leshem has a beautiful lashon in Biurim on Eitz Chaim, where he says that there's lashonos sometimes where the Arizal says muchrach or hechrech, that it was necessary. And the Leshem takes time to explain that no, it's not necessary, because the only thing that's truly necessary, the true necessity of all things, the mechuyev hametzias, the necessary existence, is God. Everything else is afshari hametzias. It's possible, it's a contingency. No matter how high along the rungs of spiritual growth and refinement and abstraction one goes to, it's all afshari hametzias other than HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is the mechuyev hametzias. So the implication of muchrach or hechrach, or these laws or necessities, they're all only because this is how Hashem revealed the Torah to Moshe Rabbeinu, to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, to the Arizal, and this is what the Arizal was masig in the toikef of Chazal. Meaning, there's certain meforshim who will understand that the Arizal's Torah, and the Leshem doesn't say this explicitly, but it is certainly clear that the Leshem Shabbat Chaloma understood the words of the Arizal as a toikef of Chazal, and that there's even halachic instances where the Arizal is seen as a din in nevuah, which is, that's not the normative, but it's because the Arizal said, the revelation of the Arizal is, this is how Hashem wants it to be revealed. It's a gezerah.
So it's a giloy, and it is.
I'm sorry. Bevadai. I'm sorry. Okay, my apologies. So it is. It's a Gilui and a Helam at the same time.
Right.
The Ramak, and the Arizal brings us in his Perush that's handwritten on Safeditz Niusa, meaning from the hands of the Arizal, not from Rachu, not from Chaim Vital. We have the Mizmorim, the Zmiros of the Arizal, Skinus Dasa, and those Zmiros and the Perush on Safeditz Niusa, and certain Burim in Shaar Memory Rashbi. But the Arizal quotes the Lashon of the Ramak, which is Ha'elem hu hagilui. Ha'elem hu hagilui, and also it's interchangeable with the notion that hagilui hu ha'elem. That every act of revelation, every element of revelation is always simultaneously a concealment. And every concealment, every tzimtzum is also a revelation. Because it's specifically by Hashem reducing Kavyachol, his fullness, Kavyachol, that we're capable of even speaking, that we're capable of even functioning. And the more that is revealed, the more concealed the human mind is. So every point along the order, we come to be masig that we don't know. Meaning, Tachlis Hayadiyah Shalaneda, as well as the simple fact that the Zidichover Tzadikim would say that they would learn Eitz Chaim Kadisha and learn a sugi until it was clear to them that they didn't understand. But there's a Torah from the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh. And this Torah really, really, I believe, is a fundamental one. The Gemara says, Halavai oisi azvu v'torasi shamru. That Halavai, it's a Shavuos Torah. Halavai, if only you would have left me but kept my Torah. And Zak the Baal Shem Tov. In the end of the day, you're going to leave me. What does it mean to leave me? You're not going to grasp me. In the end of the day, oisi azvu. You're going to come to realize in the end of the day that the human mind is incapable of grasping the essence of godliness. So one could come to say, if I can never grasp the essence of godliness, then why even begin the process of pretending that I could ever have some sort of grasp? If the apex of knowledge is to come to a place of knowing that I don't know, why even begin to know? Elama, halavai, oisi azvu, in the end you're going to leave me, but halavai shatarasi shamru. You continue to try with every ounce of effort and investigation to uncover the possibility of reaching the highest level imaginable. Every sugya, every halacha, every medrash, every daf, whatever it is another opportunity to come to realize that I don't know anything. But you can say, maybe I'll just come to realize I don't know anything at all. But no, Zak the Baal Shem Tov, halavai, you should keep the Torah so that every moment of Torah is the sha'ashu of coming to this recognition over and over and over and over again. It's rak b'gezerah, shekach amar lanu v'kach siva lanu. Kamesha amar hu yisbarach shemo, as HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself said, Zeh shemi v'zeh zichri. These names, these revelations, they're my names, they're my remembrance. V'kach siva lanu. And so too we're commanded. Kamesha kasav v'parshas kisavo, liyira es Hashem hanichbad. Ve'elav hu kol ha'avoida kamesha nispar l'kaman b'shar Zayin Perek Dal.
You said Perek Dal?
Yeah.
Here it says Perek Dal.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, it says Dalit, okay. Tikkun Soifrim is mamish is a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
When you can identify a textual mistake. There are certain tzaddikim who wouldn't change it. Because they would say, Chasuri machshar v'hachi ktani. The chisaron is what needs to be learned, and that's how you'll find the tikkun. Can I ask you to just get me a little bit more water? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So Zok the Leshem, V'hu Shem Ha'etzem. And this name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yud Kei Vav Kei, is the Shem Ha'etzem, the essential name, or the name of the essence, so to speak, because like we saw that it's the essential name in the fact that it's the most important name, but it's also, so to speak, the name of the essence. Thank you, Kavyachol, because the essence is still contained and hidden within the name, Kavyachol. V'hu Shem Ha'etzem, Ki amisasai ha'ne'elama atzmoi niskala al yidei ha'atzilus b'Hashem hazeh. Because again, the Leshem is bringing us back to that very same point of paradox. Amisasai ha'ne'elama, his true concealment and the concealment of his truth. Atzmoi Niskala, it itself is revealed. It's not a remembrance, it's not a star that is a past glimmer or a shimmer of something ancient. It in and of itself is the very vehicle through which that thing that it is coming to name is revealed in the world. It is the access point. It's not the naming of something unnameable to allow us to just hold the name without grasping the unnameable. The unnameable is folded into the name itself. Aval, but like we said, kol zeu rak bi yediyah v'lo b'hasaga. This is only yediyah sametzias and not hasaga samahus. Here, like we saw in the previous prakim, the Leshem was masbir, the chiluk, between yediyah sametzias and hasaga samahus. We had a grasp of yediyah sametzias, but even what we thought may have been considered hasaga samahus, a knowledge of existence versus a grasping of the essence, even the Havamina to say that maybe there's a level of grasping of the essence, it reverts back to a knowledge of existence. But over here, the Leshem is only using the kind of the adverbs of it. Biyadiyah v'lo b'hasaga. He's not saying biyadiyah samatzias v'lo hasaga samahus. So it could be that it's like the second teretz of the Leshem earlier, that even if you want to say we're talking on a darga of hasaga, of grasping, it's only the knowledge of hasaga, not actual hasaga. Biyadiyah v'lo b'hasaga. Ki hu ne'elem b'tachlis ha'elem. Because it is concealed in all matters of concealment, meaning as if it never came out at all. We have no ability, it is completely concealed from our grasp, to grasp it in accordance with our ability to grasp. How it could possibly be that the light of his essence, kaviyachol, is related to, is misyaches, is named by, is revealed by this name. V'loimer shehu atzmo, and to say that this name itself is him. V'hu, and it is it. And he is he. Achal kol panim, nevertheless, al kol panim is a way that the Leshem writes. We're going to see al kol panim so many times. Al kol panim, the Leshem writes all the time. Because al kol panim is a hermeneutical device. It's a textual kind of point where the Leshem catches himself kaviyachol after expressing himself textually for a very long time, always remaining true to the essential point he's coming to say. But then when he wants to finally convey what he's trying to say, to give us the tamsitz, the quintessence of something, it's al kol panim. Al kol panim. Al kol panim hu ki emes kenhu. Meaning, so even though it's completely concealed from our minds in all matters of concealment, how we can grasp that the name of his essence or the essence of his name are truly one, that he is he and it is it. But nevertheless, it's the truth. It's the truth, shahu. He is he, it is it. That's what it is. And the limitation is not on the metzias of the dvarim, it's a halacha in hasaga. It's a halacha in hasaga. We'll speak about this at the end of this chapter.
Hasaga in Yediyah.
Yediyah and hasaga. We're seeing, that's what I wanted to say before, that the Leshem...
It sounds like he's making a difference here. Meaning it sounds like you can do hu rak b'Yediyah v'lo b'hasaga ki hu ne'elam happens halam mila hasi. See, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if I'm being too sensitive to Leshem.
No, they have to be.
But meaning like hasaga I always thought was like a lower level of an understanding.
Interesting. You're like, because like Rambam and Lamdis. Yeah, no, Hasaga and Pnimius is much higher than a Yediyah. Hasaga Samuhus is an experience. It's grasping something, integration.
But
a Yediyah is a.
No, but when you grasp something, I would argue if it can be grasped, then it's not.
B'vadai. If it can be known, there's no Hasaga.
No, but that's why a concept is greater. It's not as graspable as
you're right. The concept, the logos, the Torah, the idea, is the only way that this impossible transition and transmission takes place. Like the Tanya says, and we're going to see the Leshem says also, that it's like the Rambam says in the Moira, that it's hu hamada, hu ha-yodea, v'hu ha-yedua, I believe it's that the knowledge, he's the knower, he's the knowing, and he's the knowledge known. But the way the Balatanya describes this is the yichud hanifla that takes place when a person is learning Torah. This is in Parak Dalet and Tanya, that there's no unification quite like this. The experience of knowledge of Torah, das, and connectivity. And I guess the real translation of Yediyah means Yediyah and Hasaga are a spectrum. They're not two separate. It's a spectrum.
Correct. And what would be considered, I guess, and explain that spectrum for a second?
What was the Torah I was just saying over?
Give it over.
Okay. Meaning to say, Yediyah and Hasaga. Yediyah is the Adam Yada Eschava. Yediyah is a way of knowing something.
Okay.
It's not simply a concept. I was by the Tanya. Right, the Tanya is saying, so what takes place when we're learning a sugya? When we're learning a sugya, the Torah surrounds the mind and suffuses the mind. The idea is within the mind and surrounding the mind. So both of those aspects are there's Yediyah and Yediyah is knowing something. Yediyah is having a connection to an idea, but there's gradations of it. I can know something intellectually, which is going to be a lower level than Hasaga. I can know something on the deepest level where the Das is drawn down into me, where that is in and of itself what Hasaga is.
What you're saying is Hasaga is a higher level than Yediyah in terms of
intensity, exactitude, immediacy, encounter. I mean, look, the question you're asking is what does it mean? What is it like? What's the experience here?
Right.
And so it's hard to say because you have to go into the grand history. For the Leshem, it's learning.
More of an experience then?
It's an experience.
Yediyah is a concept.
Yes, that's a fair way to say it.
Okay.
That's a fair way to say it. So we have a knowledge of the concepts, Yediyah Samatzias. We have a knowledge of the existence of the concepts, but we have no Hasaga Samahus. We have no way of grasping them in their...
But that's what I'm saying, but if you have an experience of something, then you essentially grasp it in a sense. That would be... So that's why in my mind, I think that's Hasaga, whereas a Yediyah would be beyond that. I can't even have a concept. I can only have a concept. But maybe... Yeah,
no, I hear what you're saying. We're getting...
That's why I was thinking in this Leshem, the way he's speaking, because he's saying all we can have is a Yediyah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Yes.
There's no sort of Hasaga that we can have of this.
Absolutely.
Meaning there's no experience that we can have. It's the grasping that we can do, maybe more physicality, as it were, that's not even possible. Only a Yediyah. Al Kolpanim.
Yes.
So there is even...
There's the Yediyah. No, exactly. So I don't think we're arguing here. I don't think we're arguing, meaning... The distinction being made here with the Leshem in terms of Yediyah Samatzias and Hasaga Samahus seems to me to be as follows. Yediyah Samatzias is the ability to know that a concept exists, to study the ideas about that concept, to live with some sort of an awareness of that concept, but it still remains a cerebral kind of known thing. A hasaga is a direct encounter and a full and total grasp of the concept, as well as a full integration with the concept to the point that I am now unified with the concept.
And what's the reason one could not have a Yediyah?
A person can have a Yediyah. Always, versus a hasaga.
Why can't that be a hasaga?
Why can't the Yediyah be a hasaga?
Right.
So I'm not claiming that it's not. This is what I mean when I speak of the spectrum of das, meaning Yediyah and hasaga. Yediyah, generally speaking, means some sort of intellectual processing, hilchos deos, what one needs to know, a system of information. What the Balatanya points out and what the Mikubalim point out already is that the language of das, etymologically speaking, we encounter das, va'adam yada eschava. It's more of a carnal experience. It's more of an embodied experience, a way of processing something very real, something immediate, something measurable, graspable, and which means that I operate on the same playing field as it. The interdiction, the prohibition against grasp, is the recognition that while I can speak about it, I can choose to believe in it because it's what's been conveyed to me, I can intellectually come to understand it, and I can come to know it in all of its ways. In the end of the day, I can't have a full encounter with that which I'm trying to know, because that would imply an even playing field. And the most fundamental truth at the core of all truths is that it's never an even playing field. because the Creator is, by definition, as we understand it, the most definitive definition of what a Creator is that it is perpetually, infinitesimally and infinitely separate and removed from the creature, from that which is created. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Meaning, the Leshem has a letter. The Leshem has a letter about what it would mean to even come to try and think about Or Ein Sof Kaviyachol before the Tzimtzum. Meaning, as we know from the beginning chapters, we're not even talking about the essence of godliness. We're talking about the first revelation, so to speak, of that essence, right? So we're always protected. But the Leshem says, not only is it ridiculous and unfathomable to conceive of the possibility of grasping or thinking about the ideas of what the true essence of the infinite might be, there's even an Isser involved in it. Why? And the Leshem says, because when I am thinking about something and trying to understand something, the implication of das, or understanding, is that I stand under something. I have a positioning with this thing where I am somewhat in control of the thing. And if I can understand it, that means I am separate from it. I have objectified a concept. And the Leshem says, to contemplate the infinitude of the infinite is to imply what the very act of trying to think about something is, which is rooted in a distance from that thing. A subjective removal from the object so that I can analyze from a distance. And the Leshem says, to even begin thinking about the infinitude of the infinite, the Or Ein Sof Kaviyachol Mamish, is already falling into that trap of implying that there's something separate from it. So what the Leshem is ultimately saying here is that we know it, we can know it, and again, knowledge can be integrated into faith, and it can become a lived, embodied zeitgeist in a way that a person functions. But in the end of the day, it's not provable. Hasaga is proof. Hasaga is proof. That's how I would say. Hasaga is proof. It's not provable. But in the end, it's true. Nevertheless, Achol Kol Panim Hu Ki Ha'emes Keinu. This is what the truth is. Shahu Hu. He is he. It is it. Because, why can we say this? Because this is what he's told us, and this is what he's commanded us to do. Meaning, he's told us in Parshas Kisavo, Liyiras Hashem HaNechbad. V'Hashem Hazeh, and this name, Shem Havaya, Hu Amisas Atzmusoi Atzmoi Shenizgal Bo Yedei Hatzilus. It is the essence. It is the essence itself that is revealed in and through Al Yidei Ha'atzilus. V'hu Elokeinu Ein Od. And in truth, the only thing that is present are two mechanisms, so to speak, of what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is using to reveal himself. Not to ever come, God forbid, to think that Atzilus or the Giluyim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is something separate and apart, but also to never, God forbid, come to think that those Giluyim are identifiable with the essence itself, but to come to that place of the Razid the Memnusa, where we know that it is and it isn't at the very same time. Because if I ever say that the Shem Havaya does not convey to me the immediate, deepest possible expression of godliness in the most essential way that even a 2-year-old child understands, I'm a heretic in that element. But at the same point, if I come to claim that the essence of godliness, so to speak, is revealed within a name, I'm also a heretic. I'm also stuck with it. I'm not using the word heresy, specifically. But so the only, like we said, the path of philosophy is the exclusion of the middle. The excluded middle from the laws of logic, which states that two oppositional postulates cannot be held at a standstill, upheld in a standstill. That if A is C and B is not A, then A and B are not the same. It can't be. But in Pnimius HaTorah, like we said, we take this law of non-contradiction and we break it apart and we place it as the very crown jewel of the entire system. This is what Keser Kol Aksarim is. This is what Pella is. This is what Mafli Lasos means, the wonder of it all. What is a wonder? A wonder is something that transcends the capacity of knowledge or logical assumptions, but nevertheless maintains a connection to the idea as something that moves through and beyond the possibility of knowing. It doesn't negate knowing. It's an ignorance that stands above and beyond any process of knowledge. It's the final piece of awareness. But in the end of the day, we have to remember every second that it's only HaKadosh Baruch Hu and nothing else. Again, bringing us back to that protective place that the Leshem brings us to. It's almost like a self-disappearing text, right? Like the text erases itself as you read it.
So again, forgive me.
No, please, let's...
So the idea, which is Adam Yada Eskava, right? Which is this kind of more intimate knowledge, right? But that's not a saga, which would be a proof.
I would say, so what we were saying before is that there's the idea what the Leshem is describing, which is an intellectual knowledge, a knowledge of, a knowing of. While it can still be shown to mean Adam Yadas Chava, that's not, I believe, the main. Then there's Hasaga, which would mean a proof, an experience, not a proof in the a logical way, something that is undeniable, an undeniable grasp of something, a full encounter and a full development of relationship with this thing to the point that it's shav b'shav, meaning a real.
Right. So that type of interaction.
That's an impossibility.
But
so gradations of das, meaning there's knowing something and there's knowing, absolutely. Right. A person can, but it's still knowledge. Knowledge can be embodied, knowledge can be lived, knowledge can be brought down into the neck, into the shoulders, into the heart, into every part of the body, right? And knowledge can be felt in all manners of feltness, right? Nevertheless, it's still not a hasaga.
I get what you're saying. I think I'm looking at Yediyah in the wrong way.
Because I introduced this secondary definition of das, which is connection, right? As opposed to the typical way that the Leshem is utilizing the word yediyah, which is much more in the derech of the Rambam, which is a postulate of knowledge that can be known. Right. So these concepts can be known, but they can't be grasped.
Okay.
The word that I've always used is grasp. Of an integration, almost. I think because
it has a connotation in my mind of more physical.
Embodied in the sense that it's but the body is just the best metaphor for something that is undeniable. The body is something we identify absolute grasp with the body because that's what we have absolute grasp of.
It's proof.
But what we're talking about is that type of sense with regards to the essence of the infinite.
Right, so when I'm thinking of this world, I think like you're coming into a more physical, tangible thing.
Bevadai.
So
Congealment.
Saga is more on that level. As opposed to a Yediyah, which is more removed from the physical, in which case
speculative.
The grasping of it is much less.
Speculative.
Right.
Speculation.
So that stems with what I have in
my Sure, but it's inherent within the prohibition against hasaga is a lot. It's also that beyond the arrogance of it all, in the end of the day, what it permits one to think of is the possibility of it. Meaning the possibility of hasaga is even something that's unfathomable.
Okay.
You know? And I think, I think that we'll probably, I don't know if we'll start Parak Zion tonight because I like going uniform with the prakim. So, but this nakuda is a nakuda that's so dark. It's a very delicate nakuda, and that's why language certainly fails in trying to convey this. I was once discussing with someone, in a sefer that I put out on one of Rabbi Nachman's stories, I tried to describe this kind of dual stage process of revelation and non-revelation at once. And this person who's a Baal Avoda, this is a person who meditates and sits in a base medrash all day. And he said to me, he's like, I liked your book, but why are you describing it as happening one after the other? And I laughed. I'm like, because that's what text is. That's what it means to be stuck in a book. You're a person who's clearly beyond the book, but in truth, it's the simultaneity of it all, which can only. But even on a more and if the Leshem meant this, I believe that it is my permission to. I think it's okay to read this as such, that what this does on a psychological level, lahavdil, for what it means to be, like a person in this world. We know the inability to be masig something. That's what drives life. It's the ungraspability of things. That's true in all things. If everything bears a mark of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is ungraspable, then so too on a certain level everything in life is ungraspable. Not in the same way, but the essence of things that animates all things at its core, which is the essence of godliness, so to speak, it's never graspable. It's there, it's present at every second, and that creates, if we've been grown and taught and educated in a system, whether it's capitalism or not, they're the same thing, of production of satisfaction, seeking satisfaction in the belief that the alienation that one feels can be satisfied. And so then either I find satisfaction, and people who are searching for satisfaction, we see where addiction is in this, or a person lives a life of quiet misery, of dissatisfaction. But what we see from Pnimius HaTorah is Adrab Ibcha Mistabra, the impossibility of satisfaction, the impossibility of hasaga, is the very purpose of it all.
Or is satisfied.
That's true of Vada. That's true of Vada. That's more Hasidus.
Okay.
That's more Hasidus, where it's being brought down into an emotional experience of what the Mittler Rebbe refers to as Lahachyos and Barav. We tend to read that as Hashem will feed us when we're hungry in the midst of a hunger, but what the tzaddikim read it as is to satisfy them in their hunger, meaning Yom Kippurim, Achilas Aman. But there's a therapeutic value inherent, especially in Leshem Shabbat V'Chaloma, specifically here, that a person, you have to understand every second that every structure, every thought process, every system is flimsy. It's omed al blima. And that's what makes a person throw themselves into it with much more intensity and ferocity. Then it's ava azakamavas. All we have is emunah. So I might as well, stop searching for something that's impossible and find it with emunah. Ezer Hashem Yisbarach.